Hickok 45 here. Don't mind me. I'm just loading one of my favorite rifles with one of my favorite cartridges. 405 grain, 45-70 hard cast bullet. Going to shoot some of those. Going to shoot some Federal 300 grain bullets and just have some fun. This old Winchester 1886, a fine rifle. One of my favorite rifles of all time. Speaker, and see how this whole thing does. This is a model 1886 Winchester, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about. And let's see, just to make sure I enjoy the event here, I'm going to go ahead and smoke a little pot. Okay. Let's go on over and wake up the gong, because we want him or her, whichever it is, whichever gender, to be ready today. Put a couple on him. Put another one on him. And let's put a couple on this target right here. Oh, you know what? Let's take out that bowling pin behind the target. See if I can line it up there. Man, what a man. What a marksman. If I were female, I might be Annie Oakley, right? Yeah, 1886 was a very good year. I remember it well. And John Browning especially made it a great year. If you don't know who John Browning is, oh man, that is sad. That is really sad. No, it's not sad. You might be new to firearms. When I was new to firearms, I probably could not have told you who John Browning was. But if you are into firearms for a while, and you have a strong interest in them, and the history of them and everything, you better be finding out who John Browning was. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about him today, okay? In connection with this rifle especially. I know it's sacrilegious to have a limb saver on this thing, but gosh, it just feels so much better. I'm going to take it off for a second, okay? Just it really is sacrilegious, but this is an old original, and even though it's an old one, I have fired these. Now these are just commercial loadings of 45-70, that, you know, Federal loads. They're 300 grain. They're pretty warm, but they're not too warm for a well-built, sturdy gun like the 1886. Okay, I probably wouldn't shoot a steady diet of them in this old gun, but I have shot several through it, and it does fine. You get a little bit different point of impact, of course, because it's a faster bullet, lighter bullet, but they seem to do fine. Yeah, this is 1886, and man, I picked this up and when John and I were at the SHOT Show. I know, why are you just now getting it out? I'm sorry about that, but we were at SHOT Show in January, as was everybody else, because that's when it took place, and there's an antique gun show there just before the SHOT Show this year. I think it's after SHOT Show next year, but oh, the ultimate gun show of all time is, if you like old guns or classic guns, that kind of thing. And I picked this up. Didn't think I'd ever buy one. They're generally really pricey, original 1886s. But John's the culprit. He found it. We were really ready to leave. I was looking for something else kinda had on my radar. And because these things typically can run 6, 8, 10, 15,000 dollars, and depending on the condition and everything. Well, we're really close to leaving. John said, "Dad, look here." We go back. So what do you got? We'll look at it. I had missed it, and here it lay, and the price was reasonable for one of these, and not bad shape, even though it's got a lot of character marks on it. I mean, it's been around a while. Look at that. So, not a beautiful finish or anything, but it's original, obviously been used, okay? And so I just couldn't resist it. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you know who Gene Autry is, cowboy star of the 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm not sure when he quit, Gene Autry, but the dealer was actually related to him. I think it was Gene Autry. It was his dad's cousin, I think he said, and he sets up there all the time, and at Tulsa too. I wasn't aware of that, but it was just random coincidence. He had a bunch of cool old guns. His name is Jim, I think, and had a letter on it. Yeah, his name is Jim. James. He had a letter on the gun showing the date and manufacturer and all that kind of thing. It was not shipped and warehoused until 1887, but it was made in 1886. So this thing is an 1886 Winchester, and that was another attraction. You know, there's confusion about guns sometimes, and the nomenclature, how they're named. You know, in 1892 and Model 71. You know, the gun that replaced this later in the the 30s, later 30s up through the 50s was very much like this by Winchester, and it was a Model 71, which had no relation to any date. You know, it's like, okay, I'm not sure why they call it a Model 71. But often it does. You know, often it's a gun that would have come out in 71. It wasn't in that case. It was like a 348 Winchester, I think was the caliber of it. Very popular. But this one it is. It's like the 1892. Came out in 1892. The 1873 came out in 1873. This one came out in 1886, you know. But now they made them for almost 50 years. So you might have an 1886. It was made in 1925. Still a model 1886. Now I'm talking to kind of newer shooters here that are a little bit confused about a lot of that, because I get questions like that. They think because I call a gun in 1892 that it was made in 1892, but that's just the model number. It is based on the year, but it's a year that it was patented or came into production. Okay, everybody clear on that? There'll be a quiz tomorrow. But the cool thing about this one is, guess what? As I already said, it was made in 1886. So even I can remember when this gun was made. I won't forget. It was 1886. That makes it pretty old. I'll let my relatives in Kentucky do the math on that, but it's got to be, I don't know, close to 100 years old? I don't know, but it's really old. Uncle Joe, figure that out for me. I always look towards Kentucky, I'm sorry, but that Kentucky's up that way. If you ever see me doing that, my relatives are up there. So this is an old gun, and we had to leave with it. And it's John's fault. He owes me on this. So I need a 12-step program. I really do. I are a gun nut. So that's where we got it. And guess what? The cool thing about it too, and the drive back from SHOT Show, we always hit some interesting places, we think. We hadn't been up to Mecca before, John and I. Never had. I'd been to Salt Lake City, but I'd never been to Mecca. And if you're still curious what I mean by Mecca, you must be a new shooter. It's near Salt Lake City. Mecca? Yeah, I hear some of you saying it. John Browning, Ogden, Utah. That's where he did all of his gun designing. Well, early on at least. The gun designing is where he lived. Ogden, Utah. We went up to Ogden. Neat little town there in the mountains. And visited his old shop and the museum, the John Browning Museum, and it was that was a highlight of the trip for me. And we had this gun with us. We couldn't find old John. I was going to get him to look it over, say, look, bud, make sure this thing is working and operational because you designed it, but we couldn't find him. He wasn't in his shop or anywhere. It had just been too long, too many years over his workbench, and he just wasn't around any longer. But I shouldn't joke about John Browning. That too is a little bit sacrilegious, isn't it? Great inventor, genius of all geniuses, no doubt about it. So study John Browning if you have not, if you don't know who I'm talking about. So anyway, so this gun made the rounds. It rode in my car for another week through Ogden, Utah, and back and around. I hope I didn't break any big laws or not there. If so, I'm just kidding. We didn't really have it in the car through all those states. But and one thing I was going to say, we saw at the John Browning Museum there in Ogden some of the prototypes of this rifle because he designed it. And it was interesting because it looked to me, the early prototypes, unless I'm confusing them with some of the others I saw there, the early prototypes of the 1886 looked more like the Marlin 1881. That's kind of was my impression, but I might be wrong if I'm confusing them. And then again, the 1881 Marlin was a key rifle because it was actually the first lever gun chambered for the 4570. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the first one that would chamber this long old cartridge in 4570. and was fairly successful because up until then, you know, you just had lever guns and a lot of mostly, well, pistol caliber cartridges, and also some bigger ones in the 1880 or 1876 Winchester, which was just a bigger 1873. But you didn't have anything that would chamber 45-70. Very popular round, plenty powerful, very common because it was a military round, you know, since 73. And so Marlin got there first with that. And that gun, I think, sold like 20, 30,000, you know, copies of it, you know. But when John Browning put his mind to it and came up with this action, I think the Marlin only lasted a few more years. And, you know, I guess a lot of people in choosing between the two just found the 1886 much more desirable. But anyway, you may know more about that than I do. You probably know a lot more about everything than I do. But the Marlin was first, but Browning might have gotten there second, but man, he got there with the mostest. You know, it was cool. And let me load it up here and take a couple more shots. But holds 8 in the magazine. That's what's amazing. You got a lever gun in 45-70. Holds 8 rounds in the mag. And anyway, Bennett, you know, from Winchester, I think he was the president, was out there to sign an agreement with Browning on the that I guess what later became the Highwall, his single shot rifle. And Browning had been working on this action. He had carved out of wood this action, and of course that really was interesting to Bennett. And I don't know if he did it there on the spot or what, but they I think he took that back to Winchester. And anyway, they ended up paying him $50,000 for the patent on this rifle and for the rights to it. And then that was in 1883, I think. And then they started working on it. You know, it's always a couple years process. So by 1886, though, you know, here it came. And just one of the, considered generally the most, I don't know, what adjective should we use? The most gorgeous lever gun, the smoothest lever gun, the biggest, smoothest lever gun, most desirable lever gun. There's so many things we can say about it. It's just a wonderful thing. The design that he used on it was marvelous. You notice these lugs, I've shown you this before, that lock right there. You can see those two lugs coming up through the bolt, the mortises in the bolt and in the frame there. And I bring that down, picks up that cartridge, pops it in there, and then those locking bars lock right in there. And we can probably shoot it now. It's probably safe to shoot. And I think in honor of John Browning, I'm going to go over there and see if I can take out that buffalo. There you go, John. How about a ram? Oh, yeah. On my last trip out that way, hey, we got a pig, no charge. I kept seeing all these signs in the Black Hills and around to beware of bighorn sheep crossing, and I never did see one, but I had to come home and shoot the metal ones. I'm going to try that red plate on the left. I went low. Got off before I meant. Look at the deer. Look at the deer down there on the range. Bambi, you're not too smart. Better move on, Bambi. Oh man. He doesn't realize I have a 45-70 loaded, firing in his direction. Let's try the red plate again. There we go. Yeah, I was popping a little bit low. And you know what? There's a turkey up there on the top row that needs to be knocked over. Yeah. I think that's why John Browning designed this, as a turkey gun mainly. And I feel like a 2-liter here needs to be popped. Like, how about that one from Kentucky right there? In honor of Kentucky. Oh, that orange one in honor of UT. Oh, I don't want to shoot our deer. See out of the line of fire there? Yeah. Boom. Oh, I got another round. Man, the thing shoots all day long. So pretty cool, huh? That action, again, those bars come up through the receiver, as you can see. Mr. Browning figured that out, how to build one of these strong enough that it would handle a 4570 cartridge. The lifter's angled so that on the 1873, 1876, you've got an elevator that has to be really as long as the cartridge. And with this angled, it goes down, picks one up, and brings it up at an angle and puts it into the chamber, all that. So to say he was pretty smart is an understatement, no doubt about it. Let me show you. I don't know if I've done this before, talked about it. This is the 1873, and the 1876 was just basically this gun on steroids, just a beefed up 1873. And the beauty of this is you can take the side plate off and see what I'm talking about here. This is this is a U-Birdie 1873 here. There we go. And so see the difference. You had this old toggle link action, and that's what they started with, with the Henry, the 1866 Yellow Boy, the 1873, which is this one, and then the 1876. They're all the same basic action. Again, the 76 was just beefed up, so it would take bigger cartridges, and it's some pretty nice cartridges that thing had that it would chamber. But that's how it would work, kind of an elbow there, knee operation. Not as strong as what John Browning came up with. Now, I'm not sure about the Marlin, how strong it was. I think it was, Marlin's famous for building strong rifles, but Browning really came up with the answer. And the thing about this is, let me put that back on there, you had to have, like I say, an elevator that would bring the cartridge up with that type of action that was as long as the cartridge, and that was what they were facing as a challenge, at least Winchester was. And they were dominated, of course, the lever action rifle market. Let me get one of these out here. So the elevator, as you can see, that brings up the cartridge needs to be as long as the cartridge. And so if we had an 1876, which we don't have, that elevator would be a lot longer than this one, and it wasn't long enough for the 4570. So you see, you end up with this massive receiver, really long and everything, and plus still it's not as strong as it could be. And so that was just where they were at that point until Mr. Browning came up with this. And I brought my Browning remake of it that came out in 1986. Again, just a reminder, this is a firearm that I have loved for a long time. I bought this one sight unseen. I ordered it when these came out. Same gun. Notice the bluing and everything. Looks like a new one compared with that other one, doesn't it? I've had it since 1986. And it has been one of my very favorite rifles all along those years. And I didn't really think I'd ever have a real one, an original, because this is such a nice rifle. Those of you who have them or fired them, you know what I'm talking about, because it's a really nice recreation. And it's Browning, so if anybody has a right to do it, Browning should, right? Because old John was the original designer of it. And it's just a piece of genius. Like if you can see on the bolt face here, you can see, I'll hold it down here. I don't have but you can see there's a kind of a raised part there, and that's kind of a safety. The firing pin can't reach the primer of the cartridge until the bolt is fully closed, and then pushes that extension in there. That serves as kind of the ejector. And now when it's locked in, the firing pin can get to the cartridge. So, very strong, safe. Of course, no gun is any safer than the person handling it, right? You don't have any cross-bolt safeties or any tang safeties or any of that silly stuff, really, when you get right down to it. But you've got the hammer, you've got the notches, and you got your brain. So just beautiful. The loading gate on these is wonderful. You notice when you I'll just shoot some Federals here. They just go in there like butter. So many lever guns, when you load them up, you almost need to wear protection on your thumb and fingers, because you're just constantly cutting yourself, or pinching your fingers. Fingers. I'm in Tennessee, it's finger. There you go. So just a dream to load. And I don't know what else I can say. But, oh, let me put this back on. Don't watch. I'm gonna put this. I do have a couple of things here I almost forgot to tell you about. These are some original 4570 cartridges. I bought these at the Civil War gun show back in December, I guess. And that's a 500 grain bullet. This is a 405 grain bullet. One of the originals that, was fired out of the trapdoor Springfield. When they came up with this, it's still a copper case. So these are really early. The lever guns didn't even exist, the chamber of this. So there was no need for a flat nose, right? Like these. So that's the first thing you might have noticed. Oh my gosh, a round nose bullet in a lever gun. But these were for the trapdoor Springfield, both of these. So those are original. They're like 20 bucks, and I don't forget what that one costs. Well, it'd be cool to own those since I'm such a fan of the 4570. I probably won't shoot them. I could though. I could put this in this fireman shoot it, couldn't I? It may not fire actually, who knows. Okay, I'm gonna put this on. I'm sorry, I just get so much better look for my eye than, again, it's not for a shoulder protection as much as it is. Which way does that go on there? Is that right? Yeah. It brings the gun back just a little bit and helps my eyesight on that rear sight immensely. All right, so we got these warm rounds in there, warmer. I generally will just shoot cowboy rounds in this thing, cowboy loads, kind of power, and we probably ought to pop that watermelon while we're here. And woo, man, blew that up, didn't it? It is a 4570. I think let's try another little trick shot. I'm gonna go through that 2 liter and see if I can take out that bowling pin at the same time. All right, knocked him over. Another 2 liter. Doggies, let's bowl some more. Got one more. Some more bowling. Yeah, John Browning, you didn't know I'd be bowling with your rifle all these many years later. But, yeah, who knew? I bet you didn't know I'd be making a video to place on the internet with your rifle either. And that's one of the cool things about this. Oh, man. 1886. Does everybody realize how long ago that was? What century that was in? 1886. Here we are shooting this thing today, enjoying it with a cartridge that is just as popular. Well, I don't know, is that correct? Just as popular, depending on how you measure it, sales or something, but very popular cartridge. And in this firearm, there's remakes of this thing. We've done one, Chiappa. Of course, you got the Browning, and there's other Uberti, I guess. And Pedersoli, I think they make them, and Uberti makes most of those, I guess. But these things are out there, still very, very popular. And the cool thing about this one is, anytime you have an original, is just thinking about when it was made. For example, when this rifle was purchased, now this is from this one came out of Alaska. Now I don't know how long it had been there or anything. Maybe some grizzlies fell to this, but it had been in Alaska for a period of time. The seller, Mr. Autry, told me. But whoever bought this from whatever hardware store or whatever it was in 1886, 1887, it had been in the early 1887 when it actually was sold. They didn't go stick this in their car and drive home. Now, some of you are wondering why not. I'll give you a minute to think about it. Yeah, 1886, 1887. You got it. They brought that thing out of the hardware store probably, or wherever, and stuck it in a scabbard on their horse and rode home with it, or threw it in the back of a buckboard and then said, "Giddy up, horsey, let's go home," or let's go hunting. I mean, really, 1886, 87. So this exact gun, not one like it, this exact gun was probably through much of its useful, well, it's still useful, but much of its early life in hunting and everything it was used for, it's probably on horseback. And then it was probably later thrown in the back of a Model T, or a 1935 Chevy, or 1955 Chevy, 1965 Ford. Let's just go right on up. A 1980 Cadillac, wherever. So the years this thing has seen and the number of shooters, again, if only it could speak. And my guess is a lot of people have gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this rifle, because in 1886 has always been kind of special. And it's kind of a premium rifle, and in a lot of ways. It's a big old rifle. Never was really cheap, to buy as compared with maybe some others. And so I'm sure it was cherished by really every owner who's ever had it. So now it's my turn to be the curator of this piece. Even though it's not necessarily a museum piece, it kind of is for me. And I might just shoot it again if y'all don't mind. So yeah, what did I forget to tell you about it? Anything important? I made about 160,000, and we've gone through some of these pieces of information about the 1886, because it's been one of my favorites for a long time. But they made about 160,000 of them. This was kind of the standard, very popular format, with a 26-inch octagonal barrel, full-length magazine, rifle, not straight stock, and it's my favorite configuration. But it came in a lot of different configurations: pistol grip, and I think half octagonal barrel, and round, and some just different fancy woods, and lots of different formats. The receivers were color case hardened in the lever, hammer, generally speaking, and the barrels and the magazine were blue. And I think after about 120 or 30,000 of them, I'm not sure what year that was, then they just started bluing the whole thing like the Browning. Okay, so cool. One thing I was going to mention again, since this is kind of a, this one is so neat, I wanted to cover some of these bases I know I've talked about. The 1892 here was kind of a scaled down version of, as you can tell by looking at it, of the 1886. It was more the pistol caliber carbine, or pistol caliber rifle, and this is the big boy, the 1886. So in 1892, they went to John Browning again. They wanted to do something, upgrade the 1873 basically. And so he came up with this idea, and it didn't take him long because, hey, well, guess what? Let's not reinvent the wheel. There's this other rifle I came up with a few years back, remember, guys? And it's really well made, and it's a great design, and you all like it. Let me see if I can put together something that's very, very similar, and that's what they did. And of course, 1892 is get the same locking lugs, and it's a little different, but it's basically the same. And that's another fine design. All right, so that's why I've got those out here. Just wanted to remind you of that, and just some other stuff for ambience. Some Colt 45s and a couple of knives. We want to do. Just dress up the table in honor of this rifle and in honor of John Browning. Okay, so probably take a couple more shots. If I think of some other lies to tell you about it, I will. Let's shoot some more let's shoot some Federal here. Okay, a couple more of these. 300 grain. This is a very popular hunting round. A deer round. Like that one that walked by. If somebody is hunting, like I said, I don't hunt. I don't have any problem. People do. I just don't hunt myself. That's why these deer, they know I'm not going to shoot them. So I was out walking. We got a Henry big boy in 327 Federal Magnum the other day, and I was out just shooting, walking around. I posted on Instagram about that, and I was over there shooting, and I don't know if it's that same deer or not. He was walking around over there, no more than 40 or 50 feet from me, just looking at me, and there I stand with a rifle. They just know I'm not going to eat them. All right. Not to mention it's out of hunting season, and I'm too old to go to jail. How's that? Oh, we've got some pot we have not smoked. Yeah. Oh boy. And we got a pig over there right in the middle of the range that just needs to go down. Let's see now. The point of impact on these, I think, is a little higher. So, yeah, boy, went down fast. Let's try that ram. Put him right down. And how about that buffalo over there? Now he's hard to knock over. He went down too, though. So, oh man, All these years later, it's still a good buffalo cartridge. You just saw that. Killed 2 buffaloes today, 2 bison, okay? You saw it in action. Gosh. See if I can refrain from shooting again. This is really a special time to be able to shoot this gun. I put on a clean t-shirt and everything. You know, I cleaned my socks and, you know, just I kind of got it dressed up, you know, for this video. I even took a shower this week. I started to put a bib on, really, because I knew I'd be drooling a lot. I mean, look at the table. That's the thing, and that's of course why John and I do this. We tend to drool over these things. If you'd been hanging around here before we started recording, we should have recorded some of that. You know, we just are drooling over these firearms and enjoying the history of them and all that kind of thing. It's just one of the great things of the shooting sports and the hobby. Unfortunately, some people miss. You know, they think gun, they think violence. You know, or they think just AR-15. You know, which are fun too, but they just think of that stuff. And there's so many cool firearms. And I'm gonna sneak some more bullets in as I try to see if or think about whether or not I forgot anything important about this. It was really cool going to Ogden, I'll tell you, and seeing where this firearm was designed, basically, and all that, and all the other guns that John Browning designed. This firearm was so popular after it came out, not before it came out, but after it came out. How's that for brilliant? Yeah, I mean, lawmen, bad guys, who was the heck? Thomas was a famous lawman that carried it, and I'm sure a lot of lawmen carried it. And who else? Teddy Roosevelt loved this rifle. Oh, I know somebody that loved it. Bob Dalton. They think it was Bob Dalton's. If you're familiar with Coffeyville, Kansas, and the Dalton gang tried to rob 2 banks at the same time there. If you don't know about that, study it up. It's very interesting. John and I visited there a couple of years ago and toured that site. It was pretty interesting. It was in 1892, I think, where they rode into town on their horses and they tried to rob 2 different banks there because they were right on the same block kind of thing. And unlike the way the Hollywood portrays it, the citizens took up arms and dispatched them, took care of that situation, okay? If you've ever seen anything on that, look it up. You'll see there's a famous picture of the Dalton brothers, 2 of them, I think, and then a couple of the gang members. They've got them laid out on the side, on the boardwalk there, and they're dead. And they didn't rob the banks that day or get away with it. And they're lying there. They used to do that and then take photographs of them, you know, in the old West. And they're lying there with one of these across them. You know, they're lying face up, and they got an 1886 Winchester that belonged to Bob Dalton, I think, and because he's one of the dead guys there. I think Emmett was the survivor of the Dalton brothers and he went to jail and then got out. I think he lived a long time, but Grat and Bob, I think, met their last day there during that robbery, and they're holding an 1886. Even when they're room temperature, as they say, so, or air temperature or whatever. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So anyway, it's popular among bad guys and good guys, like a lot of things. So just a wonderful rifle. If you're going into the mountains back then, or on the plains, where you needed something with some punch, boy, hard to beat that. 8+1, nice armament there, huh? 45-70. All right. I've got to shoot a couple more here. I'm sorry. I just can't help it. You know what? Those turkeys lined up over there bother me. I'm going to pop a couple of them. If I can. Oh yeah, I got to change my point of aim just a little bit. So I'm shooting the cowboy loads again. All right, and Mr. Gong. Nope, too low. That's a nice ring to finish on, isn't it? Okay, what did I forget to tell you? A little bit of history again, and I may be repeating myself from other videos that we've done with the Browning 1886. But I wanted to kind of go over some of that again, since we have an original. Here, get that ugly thing off. I'm sorry, can't help it. But even with an original, shootabilities, if you're going to shoot it, you want it to feel good, be the right length in the stock, and it's just comes with being 6'8". I can't do anything about that, but I can do a little bit, to help that situation. So cool to have an original. Like I say, it's beat up a little bit, but a lot of those nicks and scratches, or who knows, from somebody being chased by a grizzly, maybe eaten by a grizzly, and banging around in a buckboard in the West, or in a what you call it, a scabbard, scabbard, on horseback, and just who knows. It wouldn't be a rifle you'd want to have to carry a lot. You'd want it on a horse or a car or something, a buckboard, because it is pretty heavy. Get with a sling though, you could do it. I mean, there's a lot of the old plains rifles and muzzle loaders, pretty heavy, like the Hawken rifles and those sorts of things. It's not really heavier than those, I guess, but good little chunk in 1886. So, was anything else that I wanted to lie to you about it? It was kind of neat to find it, priced reasonably, something that we just couldn't pass up, and it will always be taken good care of and cherished and valued and shot occasionally. We'll probably even bring it back out here from time to time and shoot it a few times, because the parts are available, the old parts if you really need them. But just a marvelous old gun. Big bore, it fits everything I like and have for a long time with rifles, and that is, it's octagonal barrel, big bore, throws a big chunk of lead, it holds a lot of cartridges, it's a lever gun, it's a Winchester, it's just got everything going for it, no doubt about it. Big old gun, fun to shoot, great action, it feels just like butter, as I always say. I don't know who designed it, but he deserves some kind of award for that. So I'm gonna have to make myself shut up, because I'll stand here all night bragging on this rifle. Hope you get a chance to shoot one day, not necessarily an original, but at least hold one. If you're ever at a gun show, a gun shop, and you see something that looks like that, the telltale sign kind of is the loading gate there. It has a distinctive look about it, plus it's a big rifle. The 71, which came later, looks similar to that, but you'll be able to tell the difference. Pick it up and hold it, maybe work the action if you can. Just a marvelous design. We owe a lot to John Browning, no doubt about that. So thank you, John, we appreciate it. And I guess with that, I'll close, and we'll bring it out another day maybe. Do I have to even say it? Life is good.
Oh, hey, I didn't realize the video was still going. Well, since you guys are still here, I guess I'll tell you about our friends over at SDI, the Sonoran Desert Institute. You can check them out at sdi.edu. Definitely check them out if you're interested in getting a certification in gunsmithing or an associate's degree in firearms technology. They are a fully accredited online distance learning program, so check them out at sdi.edu. And also, don't forget to check out our friends over at vaultechsafe.com. You've seen their safes on our shooting table. They make some really cool pistol safes and lots of other things, so go check them out at their website. And then while you're on your computer, if you've got the internet, which I assume you do if you're looking at these other websites, maybe go and check out some of our other stuff like hickok45.com. And also you can go to, well, I guess this would be on your phone. You can go to any of this on your phone. You can go to Instagram, The Real Hickok 45 at Instagram, on Instagram, and then there's also Hickok 45 on Twitter. There's Hickok 45 on Facebook. There's also the Hickok 45 and Son Facebook and YouTube channel, and then John_Hickok45 on Instagram. And there's full30.com. We're everywhere. We are all over the place on the internet. You've got no excuse for not looking at some of our stuff on the internet. And just kidding. There's actually lots of really good excuses for that. And we also have a Patreon now. Some of you guys are interested in supporting us on Patreon. So we finally set that up. So you can find us over there, just Hickok45 over on Patreon. And man, I guess that's all I have to say. And I really gotta take off here. And I brought this car because I need to get somewhere really fast. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll let you guys get back to whatever you were doing. And I'll see you later. Appreciate it. All right, get the right keys here. Hopefully it starts. It might not. Oh.